Okay, so in this video we're going to be looking at the material editor in 3ds Max and also how to apply materials and textures to your objects. So first of all, let's change to the V-Ray renderer. So go to rendering, render setup, scroll all the way down, go to assign renderer, and then your production renderer, you want to set that to V-Ray advanced, and then you can close the render setup. Okay, let's just create an object that we can apply a material or a texture to that. So let's just create a sphere. You can basically create any object you like. And then there are two ways to open the material editor. So if you go right to the top, you'll see this icon that says material editor. So if you click on this, and by default, it will actually open the compact material editor, which will look something like this. But we're going to use the slate material editor. So just click on modes and then click on slate material editor. And this will just give you some extra functionality. And I find this a lot better than the compact editor. Another way to open the material editor is to simply press the letter M on your keyboard, M for material. So just press that and it will open up. Okay, so let's create our first material. So all you have to do is you right click in this area in the middle, and then you click on materials, and we're going to create a V-Ray material because we're using the V-Ray renderer. And then you've got all these options here, and we're going to go with V-Ray material, V-Ray MTL. Click on that, and that's going to create a basic V-Ray material for you. And what you can do, you can double click on the name here, and this will open the properties for that material. And if you double click on the little picture here in the corner, it will just make it bigger so you can actually view your current material in this window a little bit better. So I'm just going to show you guys some of the basic settings here. We're not going to go through all of these settings, but with the basic stuff, you can create a lot of different textures, etc. So first of all, you've got your diffuse, which is basically the color of your material. So if you click on the color, it will open up your color selector and you can choose your color here. So let's create like a red, maybe like a dark red color, and then click on OK. And then another thing to take note of is the name of the material. So right at the top, you'll see it says material number 25. So let's change this. Let's just call this red for now. And you'll see it will update here in the view as well. And there are two ways, or there are a couple of ways to assign this material to an object. So it's got a little dot on the side. And what you can do, you can click and drag, and it will create this little line. And you can drag that right to your object and release, and that will assign the material. Let me just undo that, and I'm going to show you another way. So the second way that you can do this, you can select an object or you can select multiple objects. So let's create another box here, and I'm just going to click the select object, and I'm going to click on this one, hold in control to select that one as well. So I've got both of these selected, and then what you can do is you can right click on this little circle and go assign material to selection, and that will assign this material to everything that you've got selected in your scene. Okay, let's just move this up a little bit, and I'm going to create a plane underneath this as well. So let's just draw out a plane, and maybe let's just move that down a bit. That's actually fine like that. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another material, and you can either go right click materials, V-Ray material, or you can clone this material and just change the properties. And the same way that you clone objects, remember that you hold in shift. So all that you do is you hold in shift and you drag this to the side, and then you release shift. And that will create a copy of that material with all the same settings. So to open up this material settings, just double click on it. And let's call this one blue. Should just type that in the name, and then let's change the diffuse to blue as well. So something like that. Then we're going to go to the next setting, which is the reflection properties of that material. So currently you'll see that the reflector is set to black. So if you click on that, so basically if you set this to black, the object will have no reflection. And if you set it to white, it will be a perfect mirror. So you can basically just play with this and see what works for you. So I'm going to set it on, let's say 75% reflective. And then I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to assign this to the floor. So let's just drag this to the plane and release to assign it. And let's just close this down. And I'm going to do a quick render to preview this. So click on rendering and then render. So as you can see, there's a slight reflection there, but not really that strong. So let's go back into the material editor and make sure we're on the blue material. And I'm going to disable Fresnel reflections. And that will just give you a little bit more of a reflection. So let's just render that again. Okay, there you go. You can see the reflection nicely. Yeah, looking good. Okay, let's go back into the material editor, and I'm going to show you some of the other options. So we've got reflection glossiness, and if you bring this down a bit, you'll see in the preview that it's actually it will look a little bit more glossy, like a plastic or something like that. So let's do 0.9, and you don't have to assign this material again because it's already assigned, so you can just edit it, and anything that you edit here will actually update on your object. Okay, so let's render that again. Okay, it kind of looks the same. So I want to add this material to the sphere as well. So let's just drag that over onto the sphere and let's render that. So now I can see the glossiness a little bit better on the sphere because it's got a round surface. So that's looking cool. Let's move on to some other options in the material editor. So still on the blue material, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and then we've got refraction, and that's basically if the object is opaque or transparent. So same principle from black to white. So if it's black, it will be completely opaque. If it's white, it will be completely transparent. As you can actually see in the preview window as I slide that down, if we set this in the middle, you can kind of see through that. Okay, before we render that, let me just move this this box that we have. Let's move it in front of that object, and let's go back into the material settings, and I'm going to modify the red material. So let's double click on that to go into the settings, and then refract I'm going to change to around 40% so we can see through that, and let's do a render. So now you can see we're starting to see through this object, and you can see some of the blue behind it. Okay, so let's go back into the settings. I'm going to change the blue to refraction to nothing, and I'm going to do the same with the red. So double click, go to refraction, set that to black. Okay, another thing that I want to show you is that you can actually load some textures into some of these maps. So I'm going to create a new material. So I'm going to clone the red one. So I'll hold in Shift, drag that across, and I'm going to double click on this one to edit. And I'm going to name this one floor. Okay, and I want to load like a tile material or texture into this. And the way to do that is next to diffuse, you've got a little box. And if you click on that, it will open up a material or map browser. Here you can actually load like a bitmap or like a picture, or one of these built-in presets or built-in maps. So for this one, I'm going to use checker. Double click on that, and you'll see that it will actually connect. I'm just going to move these others out of the way. That it will actually connect another little box to the diffuse map. So that's the diffuse map for this material, and it's got a checker map that's linked to the diffuse map of this material. So if we double click on this checker map, that will open up the settings, and here you can change the colors. So color 1, let's make that maybe white, and color 2, let's make that blue. And you'll see you've got like a white and blue tile going on. And then you can also set the tiling amount. So if you make this number bigger, let's say 5 and 5, you'll see that the tiles will get smaller. You can set it to 10, 10, and then we'll even get smaller. So now I want to assign this material, the floor material, to the floor. So I'm going to just drag this across to the floor, release, and let's do a quick render. There you can see we've got a nice tiled floor going on there. And another thing that I want to do, I want to change the reflectivity of the floor. So still on the floor material, let's change the reflectivity to about 50%, and let's make the reflection glossiness 0.9. Also remember to remove the Fresnel reflections, so just untick that. Let's just change the camera angle maybe from this angle, and let's do a quick render to see how that looks like. So you can see some of the reflection here and below this sphere, so it's looking nice. And let me quickly show you how to add a picture texture in here as well. So what you can also do, you can click on this little line at the top, and that will minimize your material for you, so just to save some space. And you can also use your mouse wheel to zoom out and zoom in, and if you hold in the mouse wheel, you can pan around, so you can actually move them around. You can also select some of them like this and also drag them around. All very simple controls. Okay, so let's create a new material. So I'm going to right click materials, V-Ray, and V-Ray material. And I'm going to double click the picture so we can see it a bit better. And I'm going to double click on this one to make sure we select it. And I'm going to call this one bitmap. So we're going to load a picture. You can call it anything you like. And next to diffuse, I'm going to click on the little box, and then I'm going to select bitmap. Double click on that, and it's going to give you like your normal browser, and here you can browse your computer to find an image that you want to load in. So let's just see. I don't really have any great textures here, but maybe let's add this grass. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's called grass, but I'm going to add this green blob in there. Click on open, and that's also going to add that bitmap into the diffuse map, and then I'm going to apply it to the sphere. So let's just link it to the sphere. Let's just zoom in here a little bit, and let's do a quick render. And there you can see that the picture is actually showing up. It's not a real great example, so let's change the picture. So I'm going to double click on the bitmap here on the side, and there you can see there's the path to that image file. So I'm going to click that, and let's just see if I have anything on the desktop that we can use. Oh, I've got a Coca-Cola label, so this should be interesting. Let's do a quick render again. So there you can see we've got a Coca-Cola texture going on the sphere. So let's say you want to rotate that label so that the Coca-Cola is more on this side. So let me show you how to do that. So still on the bitmap, if you double click on that, you've got your offset and you've got your tiling. So if you look at this picture here, and if I change the U offset, you will see that that will actually turn horizontal. And if we change the V value, that will change vertically. Okay, so let's just try something like that. Let's do a quick render again, and you'll see that the angle of that material is actually changing. What you can do, let's just close the material editor quickly. If you go to your viewport that you're actually looking at and you click on realistic, you can go down to materials, and then you can enable realistic materials with maps. And if you click that, it will actually show the material in your viewport, which is quite nice if you're trying to line up some materials. So let's just open up the material editor again, and I'm going to go back into the bitmap. And now if you update this number here, you can actually see what's happening in your scene, and that will make it a lot easier to just change the way some of your materials look. And let's do a quick render again. And there you go, looking good. So that's the basics of the material editor in 3ds Max. Just play around with it, try and add some interesting bitmaps to some of your objects, and I'll see you in the next video.